What did John do? Hi, Mary.
Good evening, everyone. Clock on the wall says 6:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is Monday, April 17th. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Brady, give us a roll call, please.
Commissioner Vogel.
Here.
Commissioner Papantos.
Present.
Commissioner Vito.
Here.
Commissioner Lang.
Here.
Commissioner Kruger.
Present.
Commissioner Rufato.
Here.
Chairperson Horker.
Here. You have before you the minutes of the special meeting of March 6, 2023. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Papantos, second. Commissioner Papantos, second. Commissioner Vogel, roll call.
Commissioner Papantos.
Yes.
Commissioner Vito.
Yes.
Commissioner Lang.
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger.
Yes.
Commissioner Rufato.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Chairperson Horker.
Yes. Citizens' concerns and comments?
Not today.
Okey-doke.
6A.
Yes, please.
Annual renewal of the liquor license 2023 to 2024.
Mr. Spondilis.
Thank you. Before you this evening is a request to authorize the renewal of existing liquor licenses. There are currently 87 in the Village of Wheeling. There are 4 conditions I would ask be considered before making a motion. They are the submittal in good order of all application materials. Second, satisfactory background check results for all responsible parties. Third, the payment of any outstanding food and beverage tax. And finally, the payment of all applicable liquor license fees.
Do we have any questions or comments? If not, Commissioner Kruger?
Yes, thank you. Manager Spondilis, I'm just curious, does anyone owe us fees? Do we have a fee?
Food and beverage fees, I believe there are still 2 outstanding, and that is the collection of food and beverage tax. There are a number who have yet to pay for the new license fee, but that's okay. They still have another 2 weeks.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger. Any other questions?
So moved with the conditions as read.
Commissioner Kruger, second.
Second.
Commissioner Lang beat you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Vito.
Yes.
Commissioner Lang.
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger.
Yes.
Commissioner Rufato.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel.
Yes.
Commissioner Papantos.
Yes.
Chairperson Horker.
Yes. Item B.
6B, consideration of request for a supplemental Class D-4 liquor license for Moe's Café, Inc., doing business as Moe's Café, an existing restaurant at 31 through 33 North Elmhurst Road.
Mr. Spondilis.
Thank you. As the title indicates, this is a supplemental liquor license. The establishment already has a Class BV liquor license. They would just like the opportunity to add package liquor license to their offerings in the business. There are no issues with that, as there are many Class D4 licenses within our community. And I am happy to answer any questions. I would ask that any motion be subject upon the following. First, the payment of all associated fees, and second, the passage of an ordinance authorizing the creation of a new Class D liquor license.
Commissioner Lang, you had a question?
I do for the petitioners.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Could you state your name for the record?
My name is Odalis Uriosege.
So, just a simple question. Curious about the package sales. So you had it during COVID. Package sales. You were selling. I was wondering what sort of alcohol you sell through the package sales.
During COVID, I did not have any package sales, so this is the first time I'd be doing it. A lot of our customers ask us for beer to go, so maybe like a 12-pack, 18-pack, and wine.
Okay. I'm just curious because I wasn't sure what, you serve a lot of mixed drinks there and so on.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions, but they said that package, so we do have a lot of requests for beer and wine. I'm not sure if I do, bottles of actual liquor, but definitely the beer.
Okay.
If possible.
Thank you. That was it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lang. Any other questions? If there are none.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Vogel, second.
Second.
Commissioner Papantos, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lang,
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rafato,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Papantos.
Yes.
Commissioner Vito,
Yes.
Chairperson Horker.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Good luck.
6C, consideration of a request for a Class 1 liquor license from the Village of Wheeling for an event to be held on June 24th, 2023.
Just for the record, that's a Class I believe.
That's correct.
Oh, sorry, yes, it is Class I. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Before you this evening is a request for a liquor license for the Village of Wheeling, the City of Prospect Heights, and Chicago Executive Airport to host its annual Rock and Run the Runway, which will be held on June 24th at Chicago Executive Airport. A Class I is a not-for-profit special event license, and this is a license that we grant ourselves before going to the state for a state liquor license to sell liquor at that event. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Papantos,
Date of the event?
June 24th.
and what's it for?
Rock and Run the Runway. More information can be found at rockandrunthερunway.com.
Are there bands?
There are bands. There is a headline band called Rock Brigade who are bringing you your greatest rock hits from the 80s, 90s, and today. I should be doing radio.
Are they new?
And Gone Country, who has been our opening act for the last several years. We have approximately 12 food trucks already signed up, and we've put in our voucher with the powers that be for good weather. So, fingers crossed. Fireworks, as always, the area's best display at approximately 9:15.
That sounds good.
So
You should
moved.
come.
I'll try to be there.
Excellent.
Any
Commercial over?
other questions? If there are no other questions,
So moved.
motion, Commissioner Kruger seconds.
Second.
Commissioner Papantos, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kruger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rafato,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Papantos.
Yes.
Commissioner Vito,
Yes.
Commissioner Lang,
Yes.
Chairperson Horker.
Yes. That does conclude the business for the Liquor Commission meeting of the evening. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Papantos, second Commissioner Rafato, all in favor.
Aye.
Liquor Commission adjourned. I would like to call to order.
Hold on a second.
I'll go
Really?
slow.
Okay.
I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Village of Wheeling for April 17,
I'm getting there.
2023.
All right.
Are we ready to go?
Almost, I just have to start this, and then we're ready. All right, so we're ready. All right. Trustee Vogel,
Here.
Trustee Papantos,
Present.
Trustee Vito,
Here.
Trustee Lang,
Here.
Trustee Kruger,
Present.
Trustee Rafato,
Here.
President Horker.
Here. You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of March 20th, 2023. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Trustee Papantos, second.
Second.
Rafato, roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos,
Yes.
Trustee Vito,
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Rafato,
Yes.
Trustee Vogel,
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes. Changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Excellent. Proclamations. You are up, Clerk Brady.
Oh, Lord. Proclamation, Village of Wheeling, National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of the police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of the police officer and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone Wheeling Emergency Communications Center. And whereas police safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators serve as a vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and prompting their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Village of Wheeling have contributed substantially to the apprehensions of criminals and suppress of fire and the treatment of patients, and whereas the dispatchers of the Village of Wheeling have exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their duties during the past year. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, does verbally proclaim April 9th through the 15th, 2023, as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Wheeling in honor of the men and women who diligence and professionalism help to keep our village and citizens safe.
Ms. Rogers is here tonight from our 911 center. You really are that interface between people who are experiencing all kinds of disasters, and you get to be the ones to try to calm them down, get some actual information from them so that we can get rescuers to them, and in some cases, as we've heard over the course of the last year, help them keep people alive until the resources get there in person. So on behalf of the board and the nation that recognizes the week, thank you so much for all of you do to help everyone in the community, in all the communities. So thank you.
Okay. National Volunteer Week, April 16th through the 22nd, 2023. Whereas the Village of Wheeling is proud of the volunteers who not only serve the community with pride and commitment, but also help to make sure that the community is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. And whereas the entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world. And whereas volunteers can connect with local community services, opportunities through hundreds of community service organizations. And whereas individuals and communities are at the center of the social change, discovering their power to make a difference. And whereas during the week, all over the nation, service projects will be performed and volunteers recognized for their commitment to serve. And whereas the giving of oneself in the service to another empowers both the giver and the recipient. And whereas experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all of our nation's social problems. And whereas our country's volunteer force of over 63 million is a great treasure. And whereas volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive community and nation. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, does hereby proclaim April 16th through the 22nd as National Volunteer Week in Wheeling, and urges fellow citizens to volunteer in their respective communities, since by volunteering and recognizing those who serve, we can come together to make a difference. All right. Arbor Day, April 28th, 2023. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this day, the last Friday in April, referred to as Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, reduce heating and cooling costs, moderate the ambient temperatures, limit carbon dioxide, produce life-giving oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are renewable resources used in countless paper and wood products, providing wood for our homes and fuel for our fires. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Patrick Corker, President of Village of Wheeling, does hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 as Arbor Day and urges all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to plant, maintain, and protect our trees and woodlands.
Mr. Kaup, we have a Arbor Day celebration you participate in among the schools?
Yes, we do. We try to rotate the school. We visit every year for the planting of a tree. This year we've selected Hawthorne Early Childhood School at 200 Glendale Street, just north of Dundee there. It's going to be on Thursday, April the 27th at 9:30 a.m. We'll be planting a Redmond linden with that school, and all are welcome to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Kaup.
Can I go ahead to the next one?
Please.
Okay. 100th anniversary of the First Korean United Methodist Church. Whereas 2023 marks the 100th anniversary of the First Korean United Methodist Church, and whereas the organization was founded in September of 1923, when the Reverend Chang Jung Kim held the first worship services in Chicago with the support of the United Methodist Church. And whereas throughout the years the church moved around the Chicago area, and in 1998 purchased land in Wheeling at 655 East Hintz Road, where they held their first service in that location on September 11, 2005. And whereas in the past 100 years, 11 pastors have pursued the church's mission through worship, services, education, overseas missions, and community services. And whereas the church has helped Korean immigrants settle by establishing community centers and contributing to the Korean community in many ways, helping immigrants to preserve their Korean identity. And whereas after moving to Wheeling, the church was able to broaden the ministry to the Korean community due to having a well-established and larger location. And whereas all church members are valued members of the broader Wheeling as well as the Korean American community, Patrick Corker, President of the Village of Wheeling, does hereby proclaim congratulations to the members of the First Korean United Methodist Church on the occasion of their organization's 100th anniversary, and wish them continued success and happiness in the future.
Thank you, Clerk Brady. Is this on? Typically, I'm very sensitive about keeping a separation between church and state. However, I do not see this as a conflict in that, because the Korean community here in Wheeling and throughout the Chicagoland area, although you do strive to preserve, what your heritage and from your homeland, I know for a fact that you also work very diligently to make sure that your community is actively a part of the communities that you live. I have seen firsthand how that you see value in becoming active parts of the community. One of the first events I was ever at where there was an exchange between the village of Wheeling and the Korean ministers was I was told I was going to be meeting with this group of Korean ministers, and I wasn't sure what it was going to be about. And typically when I meet with a group of people, they have a list. The only thing this group of Korean ministers wanted was to know how they could volunteer to help in the community, because they had people who were looking to be more involved in the community, and what could they do. And honestly, I was not prepared for that ask. No one had ever done that before. I think that your people in general bring color and flavor to the banquet of melting pots that is Wheeling and is America, and I'm very happy to have you in our community. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Would you like to introduce some of... Yes.
The President, Mr. Pat Holcher, and all the board member, on behalf of the First Korean United Methodist Church, the first Korean church in Scotland, we thank you very much for honoring us the proclamation of the church on centennial anniversary. These are all our church members. Thank you very much.
Sure, please.
다들 오세요.
Real quick picture.
빨리 오셔야 돼. 여기 지금 계속 회의 진행 중이시니까 우리 빨리 와서 사진 찍고 가셔야 돼. 다 나오셔야 돼. 장로님 옆으로 오세요. 빨리 오세요. 이분들 회의 빨리 진행하셔야 되니까 빨리 오셔야 돼.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
장로님 미리 나오세요.
Oh, Mr. Kim.
같이 오세요. 우리 권사님도 같이 오세요.
This is MC. It's MCTV now. Yes, our Wheeling's Korean television. Where is he? Okay. Up front, you're important. And newspaper and radio, right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I have one more proclamation that I will read because the other way just wouldn't work. Municipal Clerks Week. Municipal Clerks Week is April 30th through May 6th. Whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk is historically recorded as the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk provides a professional link between citizens, local government governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks pledge to be ever mindful of their neutrality, impartiality, rendering equal service to all, And whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center for the community concerns and on functions of local government. And whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in educational programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, province, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of municipal clerk, I, Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby recognize the week of April 30th through May 6th as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to Village Clerk Catherine M. Brady, Deputy Clerk Karen Hannaberry, Wheeling's Township Clerk Joanna Gauza, and Cook County Clerk Karen A. Yarborough for their service to the residents of Wheeling, as well as all the municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and for the exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. The clerks are the ones who answer the questions for everyone looking for information. They're the ones who complete the FOIA requests. They are the face of the village to the public that the public is happy with, angry with, difficult to, and they are constantly professional and courteous to everyone, and they perform amazing duties, and they really do deserve at least a week. So thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Karen Hannaberry. And thank you to everyone who does this job. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I do have citizens.
Yes, ma'am. We do?
Yep, we have one.
Who have we got?
We have,
Did you read the thing?
oh yeah, that's right. Citizens' concerns and comments. Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding issues relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commitment of the public meeting. I have Jim Lorzell.
Just as a reminder, this is a time for citizens to make their comments and express their concerns, and for the board to listen. Neither the board nor staff will be answering questions. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jim Lorzell. I'm a resident of Prospect Heights, a pilot and attendant on the airport, and I've been an airport advocate for over 30 years. I'm asking that you not approve the 2024 budget for Chicago Executive Airport as it's submitted, but amend it to use the $1.6 million unallocated surplus funds from this year to offset the revenue increases in the 2024 budget, eliminating the need to increase rents and fees for everyone on the airport in the coming year. There would still be over $700,000 remaining as surplus. This is an allowed use of surplus funds according to the airport's written policy. I'm asking that this year that policy be followed. When the village works on next year's budget, I'm sure you take into consideration the wants and needs of the village for the new year and how to pay for them. An increase in the tax levy may be needed, but is not automatic. If there is an unallocated surplus from the previous year, wouldn't it be applied to the following year's budget, thus eliminating the need to increase the tax levy? Wheeling is a public body and is a not-for-profit. The airport is a publicly owned entity and also should be a not-for-profit. Airport staff is presenting you a budget that includes all of their wants and needs and is fully funded per their budget. With an increase in revenue of slightly more than $850,000, and they are holding over $2 million in reserve for unforeseen expenses. If they have a greater need, it should be in the budget. Just because they can increase rents and fees does not mean that they should. There has been a waiting list for hangars for nearly 30 years. That does not mean that they should raise the rents each year, not based on need, but because there's a list or because they can. As a public entity, raises should be based on need. A new planned tie-down area is not based on the needs of the piston aircraft. It is based on the wants of the airport to develop the existing area for large jet aircraft hangars. If there's a need or want, it should be in the budget. The aircraft is a public entity, just as the village. The idea of applying this year's surplus to next year's budget was not my idea. It's actually written in the airport's very own lease rates and charges policy. And just as surpluses can be applied to the following year, losses can also be carried forward, thus not being a financial burden to either community. And remember, they are still holding over $2 million in reserve for unexceeded expenses. Other airports in the area do have larger reserve funds, but Chicago Executive Airport cannot be compared to them. They have taxing authority, and everyone in the communities contributes to the airports. Chicago Executive is and always has been self-funding. You cannot compare them. It's not just this year there is a surplus. The airport appears to have a pattern of unallocated surpluses. In the last 3 years, there has been approximately $4.6 million of unallocated surplus. On average, that's a 28% surplus over the budget in each of the last 3 years. Let me repeat that. Approximately 28% unallocated surplus over their budget in each of the last 3 years. That is not operating as a publicly owned entity. Again, I'm asking that this year the airport be instructed to follow one of its own written policies and apply this year's surplus revenue to the increases called for in the 2024 budget. All the airport's wants and needs are in the budget and would still be completely funded, and there would be no need to raise the rents and fees. The airport is a public entity and should be operated as such. Thank you.
Any others?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Clerk Brady.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda, yes.
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution establishing compensation plan, plans for the Village of Wheeling for the period May 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024. 11B, resolution waiving the fidelity bond requirements for Wing of an Angel to conduct a raffle event for 1 year from April 18, 2023 through April 17, 2024. 11C, resolution authorizing the village manager to waive a portion of the 2023 through 2024 video gaming terminal fees for Philip Carpenter Post 66 Amvet Building Corporation, a not-for-profit entity. 11D, resolution approving a publicly bid contract with Acu Paving Company for the bike path improvement project in the amount of $79,325 in fiscal year 2023. 11E, resolution approving a publicly bid contract with Tate Enterprise, Inc. for the parking lot improvement project in the amount of $128,645 in fiscal year 2023. 11F, resolution authorizing the purchase of global positioning system GPS equipment from seller Geospatial in the amount of $34,529.30. 11G, resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code 2023 MFT Street Improvements Project. 11H, resolution accepting a proposal from the Civil Tech Engineer, Inc. to provide construction engineering inspections for the 2023 MFT Street Improvement Project in the amount of $143,775. 11I, resolution approving a contract for Builders Paving LLC for the motor fuel tax MFT Street Improvement Program in the amount of $1,678,000 in fiscal year 2023. 11J, resolution waiving competitive bidding requirements and accepting a proposal from WB Olson Inc. for the installation of permanent safety barriers in the amount of $30,533 in fiscal year 2023.
Questions or comments? If there are none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Trustee Lang, second.
Second.
Trustee Rufato. Roll call.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. New business.
13A, resolution approving the fiscal year 2024 budget for the Chicago Executive Airport.
Mr. Miller, good to see you.
President Horker, the same.
Mr. Spondilis, you want to...
I was going to say,
Oh,
Mr.
I'm
Miller,
sorry.
nice to see you. So,
Oh,
it works.
did I step on your...
No.
Hi.
I was glad to hear about the run on the 24th as far as the rock event, so thank you for informing me of that. I, too, will be there, so. Wanted to just say a couple of things. One, thank you. This is my second round of doing the budget here in this community over the last, 2 years now going on. A couple of real positive notes. We have been able to move forward with our capital projects with the state. As you know, there's been a high vacancy rate with the State Department of Aeronautics, about 60%, which last year put some of our projects behind schedule, like the airfield lighting. That's back on, and we did get official written approval from the FAA for the residential sound insulation program, which is good. So at this point, we're just waiting for the programming of the $2.5 million, and then moving forward, I think still our timeline of a hopefully spring, summer makes sense once we can get that bid back out. But good news on both those fronts. I will hand it over to our Director of Finance, Jason Griffith, to go through the presentation quickly, and then myself and Jason will be here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Click ahead or... Thank you. FY24 budget goals: maintain financial self-sufficiency, plan for current and future capital expenses, and to provide the resources to be a premier general aviation airport. The budget timeline overview: staff begins planning in December for the upcoming year's budget, and we continue that through the early months of 2023. The budget was workshopped with the Airport Board of Directors on February 15th. Budget modifications were made from that workshop, and then it was presented for vote at the March 15th meeting to the Airport Board of Directors. And then in April, we go to the municipalities for their approval. The net incomes after fund reserve transfers for the FY24 budget is $60,580. The revenues for the FY24 budget are $6.9 million and $853,000, just under a 14% increase from FY23. The majority of the increases are driven by long-term leases, an increase to the Jet A fuel flowage fee, and other fee increases. The total budget operating expenses for the combined admin and operations and maintenance departments is $5.4 million, an increase of $281,000, a 5.45% increase from FY23. It includes a change to a 40-hour work week, public relations and marketing increases, insurance increases, and then operational increases to U.S. Customs. And the airport put in a new security system, which has monthly monitoring expenses in it.
The unrestricted net assets available, the airport business plan requires that the airport has 3 months of operating reserves, of budget operating expenses on reserve. That amount for the FY24 budget would be $1.3 million. The projected operating fund balance of $4.3 million at the end of FY24 is significant, or is sufficient to cover that requirement. The airport also has a debt covenants. The airport debt covenant, it's displayed in the formula. It's the operating, budgeted operating expenses times 180 divided by 365. That amount for FY24 comes out to a little over $2.6 million. Again, the $4.3 million projected at the end of FY24 is sufficient to cover that debt requirement. The airport has 4 capital reserve funds. The sewer reserve fund is projected to start fiscal year 2024 with about $480,000, and the year a little under $500,000. The vehicle and equipment reserve fund is projected to start with a $1.1 million balance and end the fiscal year 2024 with about $580,000. The airport has had lead time issues with the purchase of a large snow broom. That carries over because it was about a 400-day lead time ultimately. The building and land reserve fund is projected to start at $687,000 and then end close to $1.5 million. The capital repair and demo fund is scheduled to begin the year at $450,000 with an estimated ending balance of about $552,000. The major capital A projects for this budget include RSIP construction, the rehabilitation of airfield lighting, the rehab of the Northwest Quadrant access road, the development of East Quad apron, and then the update to the Exhibit A property map. So those are our major capital projects. At this point, we turn it over to you for any questions.
Did you have some questions, Trustee Papanto?
Sure. You'd be disappointed if I didn't. First of all, congratulations on getting the approval on the RSIP program. That really is great news for the residents who have been impacted from the noise. And there was a jet going over just last week at 5:40. And if it woke me up, it was pretty loud because I'm not in the contour, but that was 5:40 a.m. But it is good news. The program then, the Phase 1 people will be, those people who've been notified they're Phase 1 are still Phase 1?
Yes, so what we're looking at right now was the original bid that we put out. Obviously, that's lapsed, prices go up, so we will have to rebid that project. Since we have the former approval, the $2.5 million that's already programmed to us in a letter has to be added to basically our digital wallet from the FAA. So crystal ball, they still haven't given us an exact date on that, but they did say late spring, so as we're reaching towards May, I'm hopeful. FAA does have their approval through Congress to fund for this year, so it's really probably just more of a programming thing. But yes, those groups of homes that we were planning on are going to be in that first round, yes. The process of the applications have not changed at all.
That's great. And then I'm assuming that the pilot program was approved. They don't have to approve Phase 1 then again, do they, before you go into Phase 2? Or
in theory, no. At this point, we have a bona fide plan. We're moving forward. In my experience, I have not seen them go back and put a pause on a program that's now been established. If I say that now, it potentially could happen, but I, in my experience, have not seen that. So I think at this point, when we go from Phase 1 to Phase 2, Phase 3, as we continue to move forward, it will be seamless. I don't think we'll see this again. There was that instance from pilot to Phase 1 where all along they basically said we had to review the program. So reviewing to make sure at this point, right, you're going from pilot, is everything working right, can we move forward? So I don't see that being an issue as we go into the next phases. It should just be programming the next round of grants. And if you look at our capital outlay, we do have that program typically 5 to 6 years out on a capital outlay, so 2028.
Great, thank you. And thank you very much for correcting the stipend amount for the board members. That this would have been the 4th year in a row, and I wouldn't have been happy, but I appreciate it. That you're budgeting what is in the IGA. It's a known number. And you might as well use a known number when you have it. You know, if the IGA changes, we know we can amend a budget. It happens all the time. Speaking of what's there and your budget, in looking at the budgeted expenses that, over the past 3 years, fiscal year 21, 22, and 23, you're 13 to 18.5% under budget. So, you know, you're not spending as much. You know, back in the old days, the old rule of thumb is if you don't spend what you asked for and was approved, you don't get it the next year. And you're looking at more expenses this year. I'd like to see something a little bit closer to reality. I mean, even 13% is a pretty big gap. Is what drives the where you don't have the ability to predict a little bit closer, I guess, is what I'm asking.
The airport historically has, for its operational expenses, has budgeted for whatever could potentially be spent during that fiscal year. I mean, we start this process in January, looking out until the next April. So we're looking out, 18 months at that point, and then obviously as the timeline goes closer, we've tried to true up the operating expenses by having more open communication between admin and ops and maintenance. But we've always budgeted aggressively to be able to not have to go back to the municipalities and be able to operate without that potential delay on the operational side.
Well, and if I might add to that, a comment was made about comparison to other airports. We don't have taxing authority.
Right.
And from both sides of the community, it's been made apparent from day one for me that the airport is never to be a burden on taxpayers. I'm a private pilot myself, and I can sympathize with how expensive this industry is. I understand it. But if you look at the case of our scenario at this airport, where 100% full in T-hangars, we have a paid waiting list that has only expanded over the years. Our communal hangars are anywhere from 100 to 140% full. So we're not in a position where our fees are driving people out. I mentioned this at Prospect Heights, but I think it's an important point. I typically don't do the permits directly for our T-hangars, but I had the privilege of doing it a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's perspective. I won't name the airport this pilot came from because I didn't speak very highly of it, but they were over the moon to finally have an opportunity to be in one of our facilities because we do have really nice hangars. We do take care of the airfield. I think we have a lot of amenities that go to this. If I was Nostradamus, I think that we could say we know everything that's going to happen throughout the year, but we don't. And so to be able to go back and say we need to have reserves on hand to deal with things that come up, I don't think that that's unheard of. Every community has that, including the state of Illinois, which just put $1.5 billion into a rainy day fund. I think as we move forward, we can continue to make sure that we're being as judicious as possible, but there has to be some wiggle room in here. Otherwise, as the executive director of this airport, I have some very difficult decisions I have to make. COVID happened to be something that was more of a positive for the airport, and I hate to say there's anything that's positive about COVID, but it was positive in the fact that people that want to train or they want to fly are not using this facility. But in another scenario like that, it could be detrimental to us. And for us to be good stewards and to not be a burden to that taxpayer, I think it is right to have the reserves that we do.
I'm not questioning the reserves. It was more just the expenses, the operating expenses that I was really looking at, because those are...
And sure, again, I would think that I don't ever want staff to feel that they have to spend money because it's in the budget. So, I mean, it's a planning document, so just because it's in there, yes, we ask for it, we plan on doing certain things, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But I mean, it makes my skin crawl just to say, just because it's in there, we should spend it. I mean, there should still be some justification and reasoning.
Or not have it in there. Yeah. I mean, and I understand the balance. You want to be able to have it, but it's a pretty big gap, and that's the only thing I was just looking at. I know our expense gap is usually less than 1%. Am I right, Director Kaplan? Or right around 1%?
Historically within 2%.
So, and it's just a thought. It certainly isn't anything to say. I'm not going to approve the budget for it, but it's just something I'm looking at. I noticed a huge increase in consultant fees. And I had asked this question before because I don't like to put you on too much on the spot. And one of the things is looking at an economic impact study, which is done on a biannual basis. Do you really think we need every 2 years for an economic impact study?
I will say...
I mean, it's just my question.
Yeah, no. I will say I've been more in an interval in my past experiences in life, probably like 5 to 7 year, but I will say these last couple of years have been very dramatic at the airport, right? We've seen a lot of changes and things. So I think absolutely to your point moving forward as we adjust. But when things come online, I think it also pieces together when we look at the economic study along with the rent study that we're going to do. I do think this year they go hand in hand, but I understand your point on that as well. And I think if you look at a facility and if it hasn't changed too dramatic in the last couple of years here, there has been a lot of activity that's changed. So I would suggest bringing it up to date. But I agree. I think probably more of a 5 to 7 year in a normal situation makes sense.
And then it looks exciting that part of your training increase is because of disaster drill training, and I'm sure our departments are looking forward to that. So thank you for putting that in. I think that's something that's useful and has to be done. So
to Chief McGrill, thank you for your support in this as well. I know it was something that he brought forward with Chief Smith from the other side. And obviously we want to partner to make sure that everybody has the proper training in an aircraft emergency. So they're actually going to bring a fuselage out to the airport and they'll train on it over a few days. And we've been working closely with both departments to make sure that happens, I believe, in October of this year. So thank you.
We might want to let people know, too, in case they see flames shooting out of the airport.
Of course, yes.
Somebody will get a lot of phone calls. And we have a new crash truck that'll be ready by then, right? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Kruger, you had some questions?
I have a couple. Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, Jeff. Could you thoroughly explain for me the unrestricted net assets? What is it? It certainly changed from the preliminary copy that I had, but I think we're at 4.3 million now, and I just kind of want to understand what is it?
Yeah.
What do we use it for?
Absolutely. I will first let my Director of Finance go through the details on it, and then myself, I'll add it. So, Jason.
Yeah, that unrestricted amount is what we utilize in case there's any potential budget shortfalls on the operating side. And then it's also how we pay for self-funded capital projects, such as our annual pavement repairs and the security upgrades. It's also what we utilize to pay for our local share for the grant projects. So that amount is vital. I mean, over the next 4 years, I think the ask in grant projects is north of 45 to almost 47 million, with the localized match about 4.5 million of that. So that is how we pay for future capital and our grant projects.
Fair enough. Very good. My next question has to do, I saw this comment or this instruction under the revenues section in the executive summary. It states revenues, fiscal year 24, total budgeted revenues are 6.9 million, an increase from fiscal year 23, and that you use the CPI, Consumer Price Index number of 5.457 instituted for most fees. I get that. Then it says the consumer price in an estimated 2.5% CPI increase was used for budgeting the purposes for long-term lease revenues. I get that. But then it says most long-term leases have CPI rent adjustment using that individual lease's anniversary date. The actual CPI percentage increase could be higher or lower depending upon that lease's anniversary date. Can you give me an example of a renewal payment from a long-term leaseholder whose anniversary date is April 1st versus one whose anniversary date is November 15th?
Sure, and so for the budgeting purposes, we estimate at that 2.5%. Every lease on the airport, the anniversary date is the month that lease was signed. So in an April case, we wouldn't know April's CPI number until May. So we would use the April over April CPI, and then their rent would increase by that. Now, if you signed your lease in January, in February, once the January CPI number is released, we would use a true January over January CPI number. So for the long-term leases, dependent on what month that lease was signed, that's when that CPI date that's the CPI month used for the rent increase.
And how often is CPI updated by it's a federal number, right?
Yeah, it's released monthly, but for the prior month. So in January, they release December's. So it trails 1 month.
I see. So you're only a month behind, depending on
how the lease is written, but yes, in theory. But again, there can be so much change in that CPI number from year to year to month. So that's why we use the 2.5 estimate, because again, we start looking at this so far out, and if the CPI numbers start to decrease, I mean, last year's averaged over 7%. So we want to protect ourselves from any potential lowering of the CPI number, so we use 2.5 for this budget.
Yeah, there's been a huge fluctuation in the last couple of years, so that's why I'm like, it's probably been kind of goofy to collect rent. But very good. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. No other questions to my right? Questions? There are no other questions. We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Rufato. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Rufato.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes.
Trustee Vito.
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Sorry for stepping on your toes.
You have to read something for the public hearing?
Well, I suppose I could read it.
No, I didn't know if you...
I got it. We have item B is a public hearing regarding a request for a Cook County Class 7C property tax abatement for the property at 516 North Milwaukee Avenue. Application is 516 North Milwaukee LLC. Interesting name. Wonder how they came up with that. So, I would like to call the meeting to order. This is a public hearing for the public to make comments regarding the request for a Class 7C real estate tax assessment for 516 North Milwaukee Avenue. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Herald. Each member of the public shall have 5 minutes to make their comments. During this time, staff and board will not answer questions. Comments should not be repetitive or argumentative. Are there any comments from the public? Going once, going twice. At this time, I would like to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Vogel, second. Trustee Papantos, roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Rufato.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes.
Trustee Vito.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes.
13C, resolution consenting to a Cook County Class 7C real estate tax assessment classification and approval for a Class 7C classification incentive agreement for the property located at 516 North Milwaukee Avenue in the village of Wheeling, Illinois.
Mr. Clicker, what have we got here?
Yes, before you is a request for a Class 7C real estate property tax classification. Just so everybody is aware or remembers what these are, this is a Cook County program where the assessment of the property will be reduced from 25% to 10% for 3 years, then raise up to 15% in year 4, and then go to 20% in year 5. Then after 5 years, they would be back at full property tax assessment of 25%. The property at 516 North Milwaukee has been vacant and unused since September of 2019. The property owner intends to rehabilitate the building, upgrade several components of the interior and exterior, and invest approximately $400,000 to $450,000 to open up a fast casual restaurant concept in the building. with that, if there's any questions, the applicant is present.
Trustee Papantos? Please come forward and introduce yourself.
Hi, Robert Lotzar, here on behalf of 516 North Milwaukee LLC, doing business as Arbor Grill LLC, and then the owner of Arbor Grill LLC, Levon, is here too. If any questions I can't answer, he can answer.
My questions probably are more for the owner, if you want to come up, sorry.
Yes, hi.
And can you introduce yourself?
Levon Kirakosyan.
First of all, welcome to Wheeling. I believe you are the first Armenian restaurant to come to town, if I'm not mistaken, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I've had some of that type of food, and I'm looking forward to it. How long do you think it'll take you to do your renovations and to be able to come close to opening?
We're hoping once we get all the permits, it's up to 3 months period of time, we should be able to complete everything.
Great. And this is the location that, it's been a number of things.
Yes.
It's a smoke shop right
Yes.
now, or was?
It was for a very short period of time, yes.
Okay. And I just,
Zaza was called
Yes.
prior.
yeah, sometimes it's hard to get an address in your mind and figure out where it's located.
Vape room?
Any number of things. I think it was a sales office at one point too for some townhomes. But welcome to the community. And so you're talking before the end of the year to be able to open?
Within 3 months, we want to open, once we get the permits.
Well, the permit review does take a little bit of time.
The permit review has essentially been completed.
Oh,
We're ready
okay, well.
to issue them shortly.
We'll hold you to it then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Rufato, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. On this property, there is a structure behind the building that you're going to be using. Is that structure in use now? Is there going to be anything? I assume you're buying the whole piece of property. You bought the whole piece of property, and that building is included in that?
Well, property, when I bought it, yes, there were 2 buildings, but the building in the rear building, it's basically, it can't be used for anything because it has no plumbing and has no heat, it just has electricity, and that's all. We're planning to use that as a storage for a restaurant, dry storage.
Dry storage, okay. All right, and then will you use that back section for any, I haven't seen the concept of your restaurant yet. Will you use any of that back portion for parking? And would that be included in any 7C, or is the 7C just for the interior?
The 7C is for the PIN, for the property itself.
Okay, so anything on the property. But that building, you're not going to be doing any updates to that building at all?
For now, no.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. Are there any other questions? Are you curious, Trustee Kruger? Are you? No? Yeah?
Helping trustee.
Well, yeah, we're just looking it up.
We good over here?
We're good.
Are we good over there?
So moved.
There are 5 conditions with this. Do they need to be read into the record?
No, they are part of the resolution as written.
Okie dokie. Clerk Brady.
Wait, who seconded it?
Vogel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, that's okay. Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
13D, ordinance granting special use approval to permit a cannabis cultivation facility at 160 West Hintz Road, docket number 2023-13A. 13E, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to reduce the required rear yard setback at 160 West Hintz Road, May Lee Tinker LLC, docket number 2023-13B. 13F, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to permit a reduction in the minimal green space requirements from the required 25% to 15% at 160 West Hintz Road, Maylee Tinker LLC, docket number 2023-13C, 13G, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to permit an increase in the maximum fencing height from 6 feet to 8 feet at 160 West Hintz Road, Maylee Tinker LLC, docket number 2023-13D, and 13H, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to permit a reduction in the minimum number of required off-street parking spaces from 82 spaces to 51 spaces at 160 West Hintz Road, Maylee Tinker LLC, docket number 2023-13E.
Mr. Clicker, I'm experiencing deja vu. What do we got?
Yes, you are. Approximately, I would say 18 months ago, we heard a very similar request for this building. That petitioner at that time couldn't obtain the state licenses and has sold the property to Maylee Tinker. So the requests are very similar to what you heard approximately 18 months ago. And in fact, the only one that is different would be the number of parking spaces, because they are actually maintaining more parking spaces than the previous application that you had. But in essence, it is exactly the same application that you heard the last time. So a special use and various variations to allow a cultivation center. The applicant is present if there are any questions, but I did just want to read that the Plan Commission did put 4 conditions on this overall special use and subsequently the other ordinances. That 1, the maximum amount of canopy space permitted for plants in the flowering stage shall be 5,000 square feet. 2, the amount of canopy space permitted for plants in the flowering stage may be increased subject to authorization by the Illinois Department of Agriculture. With such authorization shall be provided to the Wheeling Community Development Department prior to any increase in growing area. And 3, the petitioner Maylee Tinker obtains and maintains a cultivation center license in good standing from the Illinois Department of Agriculture. And the 4th one essentially is I cover all that. This applies to all other ordinances as well.
Thank you, Mr. Clicker. Trustee Pavantos, you had something?
Thank you. And this is fairly brief, but I don't know who I'm supposed to address the question to. Is the
somebody
petition.
want to come on up and please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Simone Saroff. I'm one of the founders of Maylee Tinker.
Thank you. Since we've already basically approved all this, this is fairly simple. Do you have your license? And if so, how long do you think you'll be ready to move in and operate?
We do have our license, our state license, and once permitting gets done and so forth, we think we should be able to get all renovation done in the next 10 to 12 months.
So about a year, roughly?
About a year, roughly.
At least. And
hopefully sooner than that. Historically, our time frame has been closer to 10 months, but supply chain issues and things like that. But we're assuming 10 to 12 months.
Well, getting the license, obviously, is probably the biggest hurdle.
And the permitting as well.
Yeah. Number of employees, as far as the parking goes, this won't be a problem?
Won't be a problem at all. We're starting out with 20 employees at max at this point. As we are able to expand the canopy, as the state allows for further expansion of the canopy, we expect to have roughly 50 employees, but not all working at the same time. They'd be, working in shifts.
Great.
So the parking should be more than fine.
Thank you.
Of course.
No other questions? Do you think you'll max out on the allowable square footage for growing? I know the building isn't big enough, but you think you'll eventually fill it? Eventually,
that's the goal. Yeah. Eventually, we would want to maximize the space as best as we possibly could.
Sure. Okay. If there are no other questions from the board, I would be looking for. Let's do these one at a time. Sure. 13D, ordinance granting use approval to permit a cannabis cultivation facility at 160 West Hintz Road.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Rufato. Second, Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. 13E, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to reduce the required rear yard setback at 160 West Hintz Road. May Lee Tinker LLC. Motion.
So moved.
Motion trustee Papantos, second trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. F, granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to permit a reduction in the minimum green space requirement from the required 25% to 15% at 160 West Hintz Road. Motion, please.
So moved.
Trustee Papantos, second trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. G, ordinance granting a variation from Title 19 zoning to permit an increase in the maximum fence height from 6 feet to 8 feet at 160 West Hintz Road. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Rufato, second trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. 13H, granting a variation from Title 19 to permit a reduction in the minimum number of required off-street parking spaces from 82 to 51 at 160 West Hintz Road. Motion.
So moved.
Trustee Papantos, second.
Second.
Trustee Kruger, roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Good luck.
Guess a factory store is out of the question?
They do have a little extra room they could subdivide, but I think the security might be
A little touchy.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Now, you could probably sublet to an infuser. Just a thought. What do you do with it already? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yay me.
Just get those state licenses.
Good luck, guys. Official communications, Trustee Rufato, you had something?
Yeah, actually, I just added one before. So tonight we approved a modification to Moe's for packet takeout liquor. And that wasn't, I always thought the intention was that for a restaurant that wanted to have a beer when they're ordering food to take out. What sounded like tonight was a mini liquor store. She's going to sell 12 packs and 18 packs of beer. Was that the intention?
Yes. Our code was specifically written to allow that as additional income for liquor license holders, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I always had this vision of, a couple of cocktails or something covered that you could take out with food. Not somebody going in there and ordering a 12-pack or an 18-pack of Natty Light or something.
This was highly debated.
Yeah, I do. I guess, but it never came out this way, and I found that interesting. So, thank you for that. Okay, the other two things, the one thing that has been popping up recently in articles, TV, are forever chemicals that, they're recommending people not even eat fish out of the lake anymore or the rivers. And I've recently, I think in the Daily Herald, that the towns are testing for these. Do we do that type of testing do we look for those forever chemicals in our testing? I know we test the water.
We do test the water through the IEPA. We also have it tested at the source, but I'll let Director Kalp give a more specific answer.
Thank you, Manager Sfondilas. So yes, we do test the drinking water as regulated by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. They govern the manner in which we can distribute potable water. The testing requirements that they have are based on a rotating test schedule of various bacterium including coliform and E. coli, as well as nitrates, radium, barium, man-made elements as well, including VOCs that you might see in certain manufactured products, vinyl chloride, some other nasty chemicals. We do not test for what you've been seeing in the newspaper recently called forever chemicals, and that's mostly due to the fact that it's just not one of the chemicals that are selected. So there are literally tens of thousands of chemicals that we could test for, and in the 1980s, the Aaron Brockovich story had people testing for chromium, specifically chromium-6, which is man-made compared to chromium, which is a naturally occurring element. And right now, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency required all all water sources for distribution systems to be tested. So in 2021, they did send a letter to Evanston, which is where the Village of Wheeling purchases its water from, to let them know that the IEPA was going to be doing a test for these forever chemicals.
Okay.
So by secondary nature, our water has been tested for these chemicals, and there was PFAS found to be in the water, as it is found just about everywhere. It was below the regulatory limits, the maximum limits that are suggested from the IEPA, but there is no regulatory limit for either for testing or for consumption. They're working on that right now. They've come out with a draft of that, and they're going to be most likely voting on that in the near future. We did put out a notice to all water customers when we did receive that notification from Evanston. So at this point, we don't test for anything that isn't required by the IEPA, and if we were to do that, then we would have to include that in our annual water quality report. If residents have any interest in learning more about how we produce the water, distribute the water, and test the water to make sure that it's safe to consume, they can read our annual water quality report at the village website, or they can give me or our utility superintendent and responsible operator in charge, Jeff Wolfgram, a phone call. We'd be happy to discuss the issue with any interested resident.
Great. Well, thank you for that answer. I wasn't uncomfortable with it, but the water that we drink I know is safe, but it's just been a very large topic, in the last probably 6 to 8 months when they started talking about not having any fish out of the lake, in the river. So it was just interesting. And I just heard something this morning about it too that reminded me of it. Thank you. And lastly, I'm on a streak here. A month ago, there was a gentleman here talking about parking and how he seemed to think, well, he took all of these pictures of trucks and everything over the sidewalks and staying there and all these types of things. And I guess my question is that not maybe a question, but a response to that is, if we have these ordinances, are we enforcing them? And granted, the pictures that he brought in the truck may have been there for 5 minutes. We don't know that, because if we're not enforcing them, then what's the logic in having them on in our statutes? It's my comment. Any question? Go ahead.
I think on behalf of staff, we agree 100%, and we do our best to find them and write citations as we can. We do ask for cooperation from neighbors. We have an anonymous 459 code line that anyone can call. It is anonymous, and notify us of violations if they see them. Certainly we don't see everything, but we do try our best, and by philosophy 100% agree that if you've got something on the books, then you need to enforce it. Otherwise, what's the point?
I guess, have we ever had like an enforcement officer on our staff at all? Because it's not only parking, but we've got issues with, during the summer, lawns, you got grass growing all over the place, or, code enforcement, just general code enforcement besides parking.
We have municipal inspectors. We have 3 municipal inspectors on staff.
Okay. But so they're going out there, they're not looking for those things, but they're going out.
No, they are, yes, they are reactive, but they are also proactive. Their job is to drive the community and look for issues. Absolutely.
Okay.
And they can issue citations that are heard through administrative adjudication here at the Village Hall.
All right. Great. All right. Thank you. That was it.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. Left, right. Chief McGreal, we just swapped out a foam truck with the Forever Chemicals, didn't we?
We did. We stopped using those chemicals and we traded them in. SET took care of them. And also we're working with Jeff Miller on the airport. They won't allow those chemicals on the airport. And we bought foam that's PFAS free. So, and we're also looking to fill the new crash truck once the new specs come out. The government's on it now.
So we're a little ahead of the curve.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. If there is no other business or comments, wait a minute, John, when was that Run the Runway? How was that?
It is Saturday, June 24th, rocknrunthερunway.com.
It's already on the internet.
It is.
Awesome. If there are no other things to attend to, we have the bills for March 30th to April 12th, 2023. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Trustee Santos, second. Trustee Vogel, roll call, please.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we have no executive session tonight, so I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Rufato, second. Trustee Kruger, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Everybody don't have to go home, but you ain't going to stay here.
Right.